Welcome back. In this short video, I'm going to share with you how we can find out if we are going in the wrong direction with 3 questions. These are the 3 questions which I teach my students so that they can make very clear decisions whether their painting is going in the wrong direction or not. Now, you can make these decisions all by yourself without my help or without anybody's help because these are very simple 3 questions. So I will show you how you can make those decisions. So to make those decisions, you have to compare the reference photograph with your painting by keeping them side by side. Either you can keep the photograph, that is the printout of reference photograph, or you can keep the photo of the reference photograph using a smartphone, or you can keep the reference photograph and the image of your painting in Canva and you compare. Right? You can use any of these 3. Now here the problem is this is having a glow kind of effect because it is not a photograph, it is a device. So there will be a glow effect because of which these petals will look much lighter than actually it is in the photograph. So just keep that in mind and then you compare. So what you have to do is you keep this a little bit smaller so that you can easily check if the areas are darker than it should be or what, right? So these are the 3 questions. The first question is, are the shapes looking correct? Okay. So you compare one shape at a time. For example, if I compare this shape with this shape, like that, you compare all the shapes. You can compare this shape with this shape. Like that, you compare all the shapes, first of all. So let's say you feel that this area is going in the wrong direction. So you can zoom in and you can compare this shape with that particular shape. If you want to compare overall whether the painting is going in the wrong direction or not, you just make it slightly smaller and then you compare this painting with this reference photograph. And then you have to make 3 questions you have to ask. Number 1, are the shapes exactly that you want? Okay, so I feel that we have done a really good job with the shapes. So shapes as of now is looking absolutely good. Let's say you feel that this particular shape is not exactly what you have here, then don't jump to the conclusion that your painting is incorrect. You have to ask, is it making a big difference in your painting? Is it looking wrong? Okay, this is just a flower. This is a very forgiving subject. If you make a petal a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, it is not going to affect your painting. Okay, because it is just a flower. But let's say you are creating a portrait of a human being. In that case, let's say you make one eye a little bit bigger and another eye a little bit smaller. In that case, it is going to make a real big difference in your painting. We are painting a flower, so it is totally okay if slightly there are some shapes which are a little bit different. So first question is, are the shapes exactly how I want? So in this case, we have done a really good job. The second question is, are any colors darker than it should be? Okay, because if it is lighter, then you can again make it darker. So it is not a mistake. But if it is darker than it should be, in that case, it is a mistake, right? So this area, although it seems darker because it is big, but you can see that this area is quite dark. It is almost like black. So none of the areas are darker than it should be. Are you getting my point? So the question you have to ask, are any of the areas darker than it should be? I feel some of these areas are slightly darker than it should be. And if it is so, in that case, you have to ask yourself question, is it okay to be dark? Do I really have to make it light? Okay. Now let's say this area is little lighter than it should be. Okay, I can make it darker. So there is no mistake. This area is a little darker than this area. In that case, I have to make a decision. Should I make it light or should I keep it as it is? Is it looking anything bad or incorrect? Is it spoiling the look of my painting? So my answer to this is a flower. This is a very forgiving subject. And this is lighter and this is darker, but it is actually looking good. It is not looking bad at all. And also this is looking lighter because there is a glow coming out because of this is a device. This is not just a photograph. Okay. This third thing which I have to ask myself is, are any colors looking duller than it should be? Because if a color is looking brighter than it should be, then we can make it duller. But if an area is looking duller than it should be, difficult to make it brighter. Okay. I feel this area can go a little bit more darker. This area can go a little bit more darker. Although this area is looking a little bit darker than it should be, but it is looking good. It is not looking bad. Okay, so we can live with it, right? This area can go slightly darker. It is right now. This area can go slightly more saturated. So this is looking a little bit duller than it should be. Maybe we can add bright pink or something to make this one a little bit more saturated. I feel this area is more saturated and this area is looking slightly less saturated. Also, this area is looking a little bit darker than it should be. Okay, so we can make a little bit value correction here if required at the very end. This area is looking quite darker. We don't need to make it more darker. We can add one layer here because this is looking lighter than it should be. So here you can see that it is darker and here you can see that it is lighter. Also, we can add slightly more darker value here and here. You can see that this area is looking slightly darker and this area is looking slightly darker. We can add a little bit darker values here. Also, this entire area that is the bottom of the flower, that is this shape needs to go darker. Can you see that this shape, this is quite darker than this one. Also, this area can be a slightly more pinkish. I see that this is more reddish or pinkish, you can see. Okay, so this area can go slightly more pinkish. This is looking a little bit duller. This is looking a little bit more reddish. So we can make those corrections, right? So this is how you analyze. Just remember that if you are using Canva to compare, in that case, the photograph of your painting must do justice to your painting. That is, the brightness, saturation of the photograph should match with the brightness, saturation of your painting, which is sometimes a little bit difficult to get. So that's why you can use just a tablet or a smartphone and compare it with your painting, right? This is how exactly I ask myself, is my painting going in the right direction? You don't have to make your painting a replica of your photograph. Okay, you can make quite many changes. Let's say I purposely want to make an area darker, lighter, or more saturated or less saturated. I can make those decisions as an artist. I can completely change the color of my flower and I need not have to follow the color of the reference photograph. All those things I can do, right? So this is how I can take care that my painting is not going in the wrong direction. This is a very important thing. Why it is very important? Because there are many artists who sometimes they stop way before they need to stop, and sometimes they keep on painting without realizing that they must stop, otherwise their painting will look really bad. Okay, so the confusion, where should I stop? Should I stop now or should I keep going? That answer you're going to get back. These three questions. Number one, are any shapes incorrect? Okay, if the answer is yes, in that case, you need to correct those shapes. Second, is any area darker than it should be? If the area is not as dark, in that case, you can keep painting. Or if you want to stop, you just have to make a decision. Do I really need to keep it light? Okay, the third question is any area looking duller than it should be? If the answer is yeah, it is looking duller than it should be, then you have to make it a little bit more saturated. If your saturation level is really less, in that case, your painting will not attract people's eyes, right? So with these three questions, you can easily understand whether you should keep going, keep painting, or you must stop. Okay, so I will see you in the next video.